Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dylan. We're finally back. It's 2026, our first official video recording in the year, but we did drop a video on the very first day. If you didn't have a chance, we put out our top 10 films of 2025. We made a pretty unique list here. Matt, you want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's not just a top 10 list. This is like a top 100. I mention 81 movies throughout the course of the video. Dylan, I think you mentioned 40 or 50 movies. There's a lot of films that we're giving shout outs to, a lot of films that we're giving love to. And honestly, we just put a lot of love and a lot of work into this video. So go check it out. We think it's pretty special.
But today, we're here to talk about the Critics' Choice, our predictions for the awards.
The most important thing to know about the Critics' Choice Awards is that these are critics. And the only thing that's been happening over the past 2, 3 weeks since Golden Globes nominations has been regional critic awards. A lot of those people voting for regional critic awards are Critics' Choice voters. So throughout today's video, we're going to be discussing how these regional critics have been playing out across every category, because that's going to influence what we're doing in today's predictions. So with that said, I would love to just briefly, before we get into this year's Critics' Choice, talk about last year's Critics' Choice and the overlap between regional critics frontrunners and Critics' Choice Award winners. We can look at these through a lens of where are the blowouts and where are the toss-ups in these regional critic categories. Now, I'm defining a blowout as being a lead of 6 or more wins in a category. These are the categories in which the Critics' Choice and the regional critics overlapped. That was Best Picture for Anora, Supporting Actor for Kieran Culkin, Adapted Screenplay for Conclave, Ensemble for Conclave, Cinematography for Nosferatu, Editing for Challengers, Score for Challengers, Pretty Based, Costumes for Wicked, Animated for The Wild Robot. Surprisingly, in regional critics, I think it won 32 regional critics prizes. Flow only won 16. Crazy based on what those movies are. Anyways, Makeup for Substance and Visual Effects for Dune. And the categories where things broke, in Best Director, the Critics' Choice Award went for Wicked. That was really weird. Very, very weird. But the regional critics show why. Because in that category, there was no consensus whatsoever. Brady Corbet and Coralie Farjah had tied as the critics' frontrunner. Both of them had won 12 prizes. Sean Baker had 7, Ramel Ross had 6, Denis Villeneuve had 8, and then you've got John M. Chu with 2. All of these directors, there was no consensus between them, which allowed for something weird and insane like John M. Chu to happen. Best Actor, Adrian Brody was not the critics' frontrunner last year. That was Coleman Domingo, but it was a toss-up because Coleman Domingo had 19 wins and Adrian Brody had 16. So it was really, really close between the two of them. Then Best Actress, Demi Moore won the Critics' Choice Prize, while Mikey Madison was the frontrunner with regional critics. And this was a blowout. This should have been clearly Mikey Madison, who had 27 Critics' Prizes, versus Demi Moore with 12. Then in Supporting Actress, the frontrunner for regional critics was Margaret Qualley, but the winner for the Critics' Choice, Zoe Saldana. That was, again, a toss-up. There was multiple actresses in the supporting actress category that could have won. Ariana Grande had 10, Margaret Qualley had 13, Zoe Saldana had 11. Something you'll notice is that there's not a very good overlap above the line. The regional critics frontrunners only got 2 out of 6 correct throughout. And then there's a few others that they went off on. I won't go into everything, but something that I noticed is last year, 13 out of 20 of the categories were blowout wins in the Regional Critics Awards. And 11 of those 13 blowouts were the same between regional critics and the Critics' Choice Awards. So the takeaway that I have this year is look at the regional critics. If they are clearly going for something, if they are clearly, if it's a blowout win in favor of something, go with it. And if it's a toss-up, that's the other thing. Not a single winner of the Critics' Choice Award was a toss-up of a regional critic prize. If it was a toss-up, it always went to the underdog. So that is the big thing I'm looking at, and that's the big thing I'm going to be talking about through each of these categories. So first off, let's start with Best Picture.
I guess this is one of those categories that, going off of what you just said, there is a blowout winner here. One Battle After Another currently has 25 wins in this category, while Sinners is down at 13, nearly double. But I do think there's a chance here for a potential upset, but I'm still riding with One Battle After Another. It is the movie of the moment. It's one of the films that, when you look back on 2025, it's the film that had the zeitgeist, especially in the sphere of critics groups, especially in the sphere of film lovers. And I think what we will see going forward is these two films are going to battle at each and every award show. And I think some award shows may gravitate towards Sinners, some will gravitate towards One Battle. I think there is going to be an actual matchup here throughout the rest of the season. I don't think One Battle has it locked in. I know a few months ago I was saying the same thing, but with having Hamnet as the main competitor, Hamnet has really failed to take off. I'm still rocking with One Battle After Another, but if Sinners does upset here, I wouldn't be surprised because I have Sinners winning more Critics' Choice Awards, but I have One Battle taking more of the top awards.
Interesting. That's very interesting to hear. But yeah, One Battle After Another should be, if my theory on regional critics is right, the undisputed winner of the Critics' Choice Award. But Sinners is the only other viable option. The only other viable option because this year, literally, I think until a couple days ago, Hamnet had not won a single critics prize. It was just One Battle and Sinners. And then Hamnet won like Iowa or something like that. Last year was so split between different films in Best Picture. Anora had 18 wins. The Brutalist won 11 critics prizes. Substance at 7. Dune Part 2 at 5. Wicked at 3. Nickel Boys at 4. Like it was split. This year is so streamlined. It's just these two movies, and it seems like nothing else exists.
I think this is both a positive and a negative thing. I've seen people online be like, "Oh, this is lame. You think there's only two movies that exist this year? 2025 was so great in film." But I would also say that these are two of the films that I would say are the most beloved films we've had in award season. The biggest one-two punch we've had arguably this decade. Because I think even going back to some other years where there was a clearly beloved number one, typically the number two film was something that wasn't as loved or wasn't as universally acclaimed. And I think this year is looking like the strongest top two we've had if these two films remain our top two for the remainder of the season. So moving us over to Best Director, I think a key thing that we need to add to your great in-depth deep dive that you had in the intro here is last year the Critics' Choice had a little bit of an asterisk next to it because they had their nominations come out, but their voting was locked in another time, even if their awards came out months after the fact. So, yes, they went weird. They went with John M. Chu, but who knows another world where the Critics' Choice happened on time? Chu was the winner. Would Chu then have that extra boost to get the DGA nomination? And with a DGA nom and a Critics' Choice win, could he get the Oscar nomination? We'll never really know. But just like we talked about in Best Picture, there's a clear top two of people who have won the majority of our director prizes. And I think whoever wins picture will carry over director here. So I am going with Paul Thomas Anderson One Battle After Another. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if Ryan Coogler and Sinners takes both of these top two prizes.
I would be a little surprised if Ryan Coogler was able to pull that off because, again, the regional critics have been a blowout for One Battle After Another, which has 21 director wins versus Sinners at 12, Hamnet at 2. It's a clear top one with a second place that is just, you know, jogging behind. But One Battle After Another should be the clear winner in Best Director, unless we get some more fuckery like last year. But again, that happened in a category that was completely split with no clear front runner. We can't really say the same this year. But in the Best Lead Actor category, that's where we see the kind of toss up that could lead to something crazy. This year, we've got Michael B. Jordan with 12 wins. Timothy Chalamet with 9 wins, Leonardo DiCaprio with 6 wins, Ethan Hawke also with 6 wins, Wagner Moura with 2, and Joel Edgerton with 0. So it could be easy to say, well, Michael B. Jordan's won the most critics' prizes. Let's go with him. But remember, last year, it was only 2 out of 6 overlap between the regional critics above the line picks and the Critics' Choice Award. I am going to go Timothy Chalamet here. I could go Leonardo DiCaprio or Ethan Hawke.
What I would say for last year is one of the reasons why I think that we had such a low overlap. The choices they went against the grain of the critics group's top prize winners are the people who were expected to win the Oscar at that time in the season. So for better or worse, you can say Critics' Choice has this reputation for being that Oscar win predictor. Like that's what their point is to do here. And I don't think some people vote like that, but sometimes that's how the results kind of come out looking like. And if you're going off of who should be projected to win the Oscar on January 2nd, 2026, it's probably Timothy Chalamet. And that's who I'm going to go with as well. I think that on top of the huge narrative he has going, on top of the fact that Mari Supreme just came out during the voting and was getting this rupturous box office, the numbers going up each and every day, more and more people getting to see Mari Supreme, and the fact that last year they had the opportunity to reward him, they did it, and now they do this year for a performance that's equally as good. I think that they will go with Timothy Chalamet this year just because he's never won a Critics' Choice, and this is the time to finally award him. All I want to say of Michael B. Jordan is he's someone who I've had in my number 3 slot for months, and I don't know if he'll actually have a chance to win, but I am happy that he's getting recognition because I am a big fan of his performance inside Center. So I hope that his continued support at the critics groups does lead to the eventual Oscar nomination.
I think that he wins Globe Drama.
I've been saying that, so I'm glad you're there with me. I get the
I
whole argument for Wagner Moura, but I think the fact that Center's most likely is winning Drama Globe, why would the actor not come along with?
And the fact that like critics have shown that this is a performance that people will go out and award, he is the critic frontrunner at the moment. Anyways, let's move on to the Best Actress category, which is currently another toss-up, but barely. If I'm defining a toss-up as being 5 or less between, and a blowout as being 6 or more, this is right on the edge because Jessie Buckley in Hamnet has 20 wins while Rose Byrne has 15 wins, which is crazy. At the beginning of awards season, I thought it was just going to be a complete blowout for Jessie Buckley, but it has been really close. And then Emma Stone has one, Amanda Seyfried has one, and Chasen Findy and Renata Reinsve. Oh, Renata Reinsve, how far you've fallen. Both have 0. So right now, it's a two-horse race between Jessie Buckley and Rose Byrne, at least at the Critics' Choice Awards. I think it's still a blowout victory at the Oscars for Jessie Buckley. But personally, with the regional critics voting for the Critics' Choice, I actually think they are going to go with Rose Byrne. They're going to go for an inspired win here. Although I could say that although this is a toss-up right now for Jessie Buckley, there is still a lot of prizes to come. And eventually, Jessie Buckley could be a blowout winner. But I am going to stick with Rose Byrne. I feel like at the moment, that's where the critics groups are. That's what the critics groups are doing. And possibly there's an angle for, I know that you just said very, very well that the Critics' Choice Awards in the above the line categories really likes to try and predict the Oscars. I think that they might try and influence the Oscars here by going Rose Byrne.
And I think that's a really great point to make because just going back to last year with the example you gave of Mikey Madison versus Demi Moore, I think even though at that point the substance was surging, I mean, as you said, Margaret Qualley was winning with supporting actress wins, and that was largely due to the weeks right before the Critics' Choice. And I think that we could see something like that this year, where Rose Byrne is someone who is currently rising the ranks of this Best Lead Actress field, and it's an L I'm willing to take. If I can reign a W and be gloat about, oh, Michael B. Jordan, I've had a winning drama actor for like 3 months now, I can admit my L's with Rose Byrne. I thought that she would be something that happened right out of the gate, but then Buckley would just win, 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 win everywhere, and it's not happening like that. Like you said, it's still considered a race here, and I am still going with Jessie Buckley. I think regardless of who was winning here, this is something that has been not set in stone, but been widely agreed upon for about 5 months that Jessie Buckley is winning the Oscars. So let's just predict her and not really think much else about it. It's becoming more and more of a race, and especially with Hamlet's continuing downfall, you could kind of say it's still a locked Best Picture nominee, but some of its extra show of strength nominations like editing or maybe even director could be on the way out. But I'm still going with Buckley here because of what we just talked about, where CCA likes to predict the winners of who they think at this point in time. And at this point in time, I still think most people would say Jessie Buckley is coming out on top. Well, that will move us over to Best Supporting Actor, where you talk about ties. There isn't really a tie in the point total, but there is a tie between the movies because because the top two or two of the top three are one battle after another, guys. And I think this could be a key example of what we continue to talk about in these above the line categories of they go against the critics' grain to go for the Oscar predicted winner. And the question becomes, it's the question that you and I have debated on this channel for since like August. Who is the Oscar predicted winner? Is it Sean Penn or is it Stellan Skarsgård? But
Yeah.
Benicio del Toro currently does lead almost by double
Yeah.
for total critics wins.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro has 14 wins to Stellan Skarsgård's 7. And then you've got Sean Penn at 6, Jacob Elordi at 2, and Paul Mescal and Adam Sandler at 0. You were just mentioning Hamnet's fall off, and Paul Mescal is one of those. Like, we were expecting that he might be in win contention for this category. And there he is at the bottom, not a single critic prize. But Benicio del Toro as the frontrunner is weird because I cannot see any world where he picks up TV wins. I can't,
Mhm.
cannot picture him taking the Golden Globe, the BAFTA, the Critics' Choice, or the Oscar. But it makes sense that he's taking critic prizes. The question I keep having is Benicio del Toro's momentum going to sap some voters from Sean Penn? And I know we disagree on that. I kind of think so. And
Well,
so
I've changed my tune there. I think the fact that he's won this many
it
shows that it
does.
isn't just a small pocket. There is a chance for him to pull off something here. Like I would say at this time last year, during voting before the Golden Globes happened, that Demi Moore possibly win contender was crazy talk. We wouldn't buy that whatsoever, and she went on to win the Globe. She won the Critics' Choice, and she was probably super close to winning the Oscar. So I wouldn't say that Del Toro has no shot to win, but I also still struggle to see, like you said, him to take every single TV precursor. It's just like if he's going to win one, this is probably his most likely one.
If I were to look back, it would be one of the most what the fuck wins if Benicio del Toro won over Sean Penn. I want Stellan Skarsgård to win, but if I were to just look at one battle after another's eventual Oscar wins and see Benicio del Toro won, I'd be like, they they chose the wrong person for that movie. I don't know. Maybe it's just me who feels that way. Maybe it's just the two of us because I know you also feel that way. But personally, even though this is a blowout, like we saw last year, the Critics' Choice went off of two of the blowouts. They did not go for Mikey Madison. They did not go for original screenplay for Honora. So I'm going to go off of this blowout and say Benicio del Toro does not win the Critics' Choice Award. I'm going to go with Stellan Skarsgård instead, due to vote splitting and due to what we keep saying. The Critics' Choice Award likes to do predictions. I think that they're going to try and predict Stellan Skarsgård.
Last year, I continually moved off of some of my personal picks because they weren't looking too good at the moment, and then they eventually ended up happening in various categories. And I think this year, I'm going to not make that same mistake. And maybe that is a mistake of not doing what I didn't do last year, but I'm staying with Sean Penn in one battle after another. If he does lose here, then I will officially turn the tide. And if he loses to Del Toro, then I'll just probably go with Del Toro until he loses somewhere. Or if he loses to Stellan Skarsgård, then maybe I'll cave and have Stellan Skarsgård until the next award show. But for now, holding Sean Penn, holding the line. We'll see if it ends up happening.
In supporting actress, we've got another blowout. Amy Madigan has 17 critics wins. What? That's crazy. Meanwhile, trailing, you've got Teyana Taylor at 8 wins, Wunmi Mosaku at 7, Inga Ibsdottir Lilius at 2, Ariana Grande at 1, and Elle Fanning with 0. This is an interesting category because despite the fact that critics have gone overwhelmingly for Amy Madigan, it feels like a really tight race between Amy Madigan, Teyana Taylor, and I would say even Inga. She has a real good shot of picking up some steam with the Golden Globes, with the BAFTAs, and potentially making a run at the Oscars. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Critics' Choice, where critics have overwhelmingly gone Amy Madigan. And I think I'm going to stick with Amy Madigan on this one because it is a blowout, but I could see it be Teyana Taylor as that Oscar predictor that we keep talking about. But Amy Madigan might also win the Oscar, so they could go with her.
And that's really the issue in this category is what we've been saying ever since Wicked for Good premiered is the fact that there is no clear defined frontrunner. Ariana Grande was the widely considered frontrunner for the whole season, January until like November, and then her film came out and the reviews weren't great. The performance maybe wasn't as shiny as last year's, so the field became open, and clearly Amy Madigan has taken that open spot and rised up the ranks. 17 wins so far, probably that number will continue to grow. And what we saw last year, Critics' Choice and the Oscars didn't really care in one of the supporting categories. That year, film wasn't ever really in Best Picture contention. And I would say what really helps Amy Madigan here at Critics' Choice more so than it would help her at Globes or the Oscars or even BAFTA is the fact that her film got a screenplay nomination here, where I don't think Weapons will really repeat that at any of the other following televised awards shows. So I'm also going Amy Madigan here. I think that you make a great case for Tiana Taylor. The issue is I don't know if people at large would consider her the front runner at the moment, where in other categories you can point to, well, this person is the front runner regardless if they have the most wins at this moment.
There is just no consensus winner. And anyone who says there's a consensus winner is just wrong at this point.
But I think that in the next 2 weeks, if Madigan wins both Critics' Choice and Golden Globe, or if Tiana Taylor wins them both, or even Ariana Grande wins them both, then I think we will have our consensus like Zoe Saldana last year, who just wins and wins and wins, even if she
Yeah.
doesn't have the most critics groups wins.
Last thing on this category, Ariana Grande's letter, which I know people were like, oh my God, what is she doing? She wrote a letter to Critics' Choice. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to do anything. It's just a nice show of gratitude. Robert Eggers did this last year and no one complained. And now that it's Ariana Grande, everyone's like, how dare she write a letter? How is this allowed? It's not going to unfairly tip the scales in her favor. I feel like you look at her run with critics last year, she won 10 prizes with critics, and this year she's won one prize with critics. And that's kind of indicative. Let's talk about young actor now, where we've got a toss up here, mostly because not every critics group awards the young actor category. Many of them do breakthrough performer instead. So right now the tally is Miles Caton has 5 wins, Jacoby Jupe has 2 wins, Carrie Christopher in Weapons and Nina Yi in Left-Handed Girl both have 1 win, and Everett Blunk in The Plague and Shannon Mahina Gorman in Rental Family both have 0. So right now the front runner is evidently Miles Caton. If they love Sinners as much as they do, as they seem to, why would they not go with Miles Caton here?
And I would say the reason why Miles Kitten isn't a blowout is the fact that a lot of these breakthrough prizes are going to someone who's ineligible for this award here at the Critics' Choice, being Chase Infinity. She has double-digit wins. She would be considered a blowout if she was eligible, but
Yes.
the Critics' Choice makes this award, I think it's sub 21 years old, and Chase Infinity is over 21 years old. So I would say Caden is an easy one here, but sometimes they do go astray here and go with a more obscure type pick. The issue becomes who is the number two? You could say it's maybe Jacoby Jupe and Hamnet. I don't feel very confident in picking out who would be the alternative here. So I think due to the fact that Sinners is so strong, and there's been talks of Miles Keaton getting into actual supporting actor lineups, even if it hasn't happened at any of these televised award shows yet.
Last year was really interesting because there was no overlap between Young Actor and Best Picture at the Critics' Choice. The frontrunner last year was Isaac Wang, who had 4 wins for Dee Dee, but then Maisie Stella for My Old Ass won with 2 wins. This year we have Jacoby Jupe for Hamnet and Miles Caton for Sinners. And Sinners is so far ahead of Hamnet that, like, why would they not give Sinners an extra prize?
And speaking of a prize that I think Sinners could maybe take away from another film is over in Best Film Casting and Ensemble. I think that this really comes down to how are the Critics' Choice voting for this award? Are they voting for the casting? Are they voting for the ensemble? Or are they voting for both? Because I think looking at a larger scale, like at the SAG Awards, I think the Best Ensemble category there is probably going to Sinners. I think if you're looking at BAFTA, that it's probably not going to either of these movies, but I think if one of them were to make the BAFTA nomination list, it's probably one battle after another. And then it goes to the Oscars, and we have no clue how the Oscars are going to judge this category, and they're competing at different categories over at the Guild. But I just think this is a category where we can see Critics' Choice go a little bit astray to the one battle after another sweep. And I think that this is a category that I don't think Sinners is getting enough recognition for at the moment in terms of awards wins from people predicting. I think people are saying this is a set and forget one for one battle, but I think this is a real battle. And I think that this is a spot where if Sinners is overperforming on the night, we will see it pick up a win. And even if it's not overperforming on the night, I think this is still a category where it can get that extra little boost.
The interesting thing here is Critics' Choice have never called this casting before this year. It's
Mhm.
always just been ensemble. And when we look at ensemble prizes, Sinners is blowing everything else out of the water. 15 wins for Sinners, 7 for One Battle After Another, 1 for Marty Supreme, and 0 for everything else. It feels like a blowout win. I don't think that we can use this as a stat for the casting prize at the Oscars. This feels like it's going to be much more of a prize for the actors. I can't see the Oscars it being that simple. Sinners wins here, and it changes nothing for me that One Battle After Another should be the front runner for casting at the Oscars.
Well, you want to talk about simple. I think both of our screenplay categories this year are pretty simple. Sinners and Original, One Battle, and Adapted. They're both have steamroll, overwhelmingly wins in both of their categories. I would say Sinners has a little bit more competition if they're looking at critics groups wins from other films. Sinners has 18 wins, while over an Adapted, One Battle has 23, and the next highest there has 2, being Hamnet.
Strangely, adapted screenplay usually is the one that does not have as many wins. A lot of critics groups do joint screenplay prizes, and usually when that happens, it's an original screenplay that wins. But this year, most of the time when we get a joint screenplay category, One Battle After Another wins. It's crazy just how dominant these two movies are. And it's like we were saying at the beginning of this video in Best Picture, those two are far out front and nothing is challenging them. These two are going to win the Oscar, and one of them will likely win the Golden Globe unless the Golden Globes go 2023 Anatomy of a Fall once again. So next up, let's talk cinematography, which is another blowout for Sinners. Sinners has 21 critics wins, while One Battle After Another has 6, Train Dreams has 5, and everything else has 0. Something really worth noting, while the above the line categories do not line up very often between the regional critics and the critics' choice, tech categories, if it's a blowout, it is 100% going to the blowout winner of the regional critics groups, which is Sinners. I still think when the industry weighs in, we're going to see a battle between Sinners and One Battle After Another, but undisputed critics' choice is going Sinners here.
What's so weird to me this year is both cinematography and editing. I feel like with this matchup that we continue to see down the line of Sinners versus One Battle, the winners so far, the critics groups, are the opposite of what I would expect them to go. I feel like with cinematography, One Battle feels more critic groupy, while editing feels more Sinners with its musical stuff as well as its cross-cutting throughout. But I mean, One Battle has cross-cutting throughout. I just feel like they're great work in both films in both categories. I just feel like personally, if I was a voter, I'd probably go the other way in each of these categories. But it's interesting to see that such blowouts for both of them in their respective fields at this moment.
To talk about editing, it's another blowout. One Battle After Another has 12 wins here, and Sinners is actually down at fourth place because F1 and Marty Supreme both have 3 wins, while Sinners only has 2 editing wins. So One Battle After Another is another one of those undisputed wins in this category. I would be really surprised if something else took the win here. But then in the costumes category, we've got a blowout win for Frankenstein with 7 prizes, while Sinners has 1 and Wicked for Good has 1. But in this category, I am actually going to predict that an underdog upset happens. I'm going to go with Sinners. And the reason is because of the next category. We'll circle back and you can give both predictions, Dylan. But in production design, it's a toss-up because Frankenstein has 9 wins and Sinners has 4 wins. And like we said before, if it's a toss-up, you got to go for the underdog. So I'm going to go Sinners in production design, as much as that breaks my fucking heart to say. But if they go Sinners in production design, why would they go Frankenstein in costumes? They'll go Sinners in both, especially because Ruth Carter did the costumes and is a Critics' Choice favorite. She has won multiple Critics' Choice Awards in the past, even when she was not the front runner to do so. So right now, I'm going Sinners costumes, Sinners production design. And costumes doesn't bother me. Production design, if you've been following this channel, you know that the fact that Sinners is winning production design awards is like the most mystifying thing of this season for me.
I think you make a great point there. It's just I'm gonna hold with Frankenstein. The fact that it is leading in these categories, the fact that it does seem like it is the destined Oscar winner in both of these and another technical category we'll talk about here in a second. But I don't think I would be shocked if Sinners ends up taking both of these. And if it does take both of these, we could have a real battle in the future going down the line for the guilds as well as at the Oscars. And I think it will be really interesting to see what CCA can change in the race if it does go with Sinners and multiple of these below the line categories where it's not currently the front runner, but it is lurking right in the shadows, ready to jump out.
I want to get ahead of the curve, and I feel like something is going to happen in costumes and production design that make it so that it's clear that Wicked for Good is not the number two in these categories. It's Sinners. I hope Frankenstein wins both of them because I think that's such exceptional work. But if Sinners wins anywhere in these categories, it's at the Critics' Choice Awards. Now over to score. This is a blowout win. Sinners has 20 regional critics wins. Ludwig is coming for another Oscar. He's going to get his third this year. He's the new John Williams, evidently. But the only other nominee here that has won any score awards is One Battle After Another, which has 4 wins. Everything else has 0. Sinners is just coming for this prize.
It's so cool because Ludwig is that guy. I mean, I know both you and I really love him. When the film came out this year, I was like, oh, I wish there was a world where Ludwig can get his third. And it seems like we are living in that world. And I mean, the Odyssey trailers come out, the prologues come out. We've heard the score for the Odyssey. Maybe he can get number 4 next year. But yeah, Sinners has it pretty locked up this year.
Now, over in Best Song, there's not enough here for us to tell who the clear frontrunner is with the critics. I Lied to You has 3 wins. The Girl in the Bubble has 1 win, and Golden has 1 win. It is split, and there's only been 5 prizes given in this category. Most critics groups don't do this category. It would be really easy to say, well, I Lied to You. It's from Sinners. Sinners is going to win a bunch of other things. We're going to go Sinners here. But I'm going to go Golden because it is the big hit of the year. It is everywhere. And I think a group like, I don't know, something we kind of typically can see in these song precursors is that the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes will go for what's popular instead of what actually eventually ends up winning the Oscar.
This is such a weird battle to me because one, I'm just shocked that critics groups don't do these song mentions through their list because you would feel like, let alone the fact that it's another category you can reward a film. Typically, it would be a film that you aren't giving other prizes to. It's the fact that sometimes you can award people who are bigger names or pop stars or stuff to get more light on your awards bodies. Like imagine, I don't know, in another year you give your award to like the Don't Look Up song or you give it to the Miley Cyrus song from last year with The Last Showgirl and you have all the stands coming to like your tweets and boosting your page and I don't know. But yeah, for song, I am going with Sinners. I'm with I Lied to You. It's been my winner basically all year long. I'm going to keep it as my winner until it actually loses something. This really adds to what I said earlier. If I have Sinners winning more than one battle, because I have it taking song, I have it taking another category we haven't talked about yet, I have it taking ensemble over one battle, while I do have one battle taking a lot above the line.
Another category where we don't have sufficient data at this point is makeup and hair. Frankenstein has 2 wins, everything else has 0, which means only 2 critics groups have given a makeup prize.
Crazy.
But at this point, why would they not go with Frankenstein? When we have enough data and more critics groups weigh in, Frankenstein will be the blowout winner.
I agree, and I think that if we had to pick number 2, I think this is a category where Sinners is rising the ranks to potentially be number 2. I think there's a lot of conversation around it, the fact that it made the short list, the fact that I think it should have a pretty good bake-off considering what they did do. It's not a lot of work, but it is pretty key work, especially in the latter half of the film. I think that if Frankenstein loses anywhere, Sinners would be that film over something like Smash Machine or Wicked, but I think Frankenstein will just win everywhere that does makeup awards at the televised circuit.
Sound is another one where we don't have sufficient wins. There's only been 4 groups that have given sound prizes. 3 of them have gone for Warfare, 1 of them has gone for Sinners, and then nothing else. But sound is brand new at Critics' Choice Awards. They've never given a sound prize before. Didn't happen last year. We've got our first one this year. And while Warfare has 3 wins and Sinners has 1, I'm not going to go Warfare. I'm going to go Sinners. It's a toss-up category. So to me, why wouldn't you go for the music movie that you're awarding everywhere else in sound?
And I would say if they go away from Sinners, it's not Warfare, it's F1. I think that would be like the, hey, we're going for what we think the Oscars are doing. I feel like at this moment, F1 is still maybe considered the front runner there, but I think this is another category that, like supporting actors,
Toss-up.
that there isn't a deemed esteemed frontrunner. You have, I would say, with Warfare not being on the short list, you have three films that I feel like are very strong: Sinners, F1, One Battle. You can maybe throw Sarat in there. It's between those top three, and I don't know how Critics' Choice voters vote. Maybe they want to speak up for Warfare with the fact that I missed the short list. I don't know if the short list was before or after their voting window closed, but I just don't think the Warfare three wins that have happened so far will translate over here to the Critics' Choice.
Visual effects. This is a blowout for Avatar Fire and Ash. 9 critic wins. The next in line is Sinners at 2 and Frankenstein at 1. And are we really going to say Sinners or Frankenstein beats Avatar for visual effects? Get real.
Well, the fact that something has even won a visual effects award over Avatar is crazy enough. I mean, it's right here.
So here's the thing. The wins that have happened for other movies over Avatar are usually for critics groups that voted before Avatar came out.
More further point to what we've talked about numerous times in this channel, what we talked about in person. Why are you voting before you've seen the movies? I get movies that come out in like January or February that just don't give you screeners. But this is a movie that comes out in the middle of December. Like just wait.
Anyways, though, another category that the Critics' Choice Awards have never done before is Best Stunts. In terms of regional critics, it is the biggest blowout we have in any category. 15 groups have given the stunt prize, and all 15 have gone to Mission Impossible Final Reckoning.
It's a deserved win. It's just you would feel like, I don't know, one of you could go F1 because I mean it's putting people in a race car on a real
Well,
track, but
it's it's the last Mission Impossible movie,
it
right?
is. I love Final Reckoning. I'm probably one of Final Reckoning's biggest fans out there. I gave that
You
movie a
are?
9 out of 10. It's just like for as many people that shat on that movie, there should be at least one place that goes somewhere else. I feel like people are just defaulting to it because I think that F1 should get something. But that might be me being biased because I like F1 even more. But if you're gonna hate on the movie, I feel like you need to keep your hatred over there. You can't just pluck in and just say, "Oh, I like the stunts though."
I think you can. Like, I would not put it as a stunt winner personally, but I see why you would as like here's an achievement for the entire franchise.
And that'll be
So
interesting to see for the Oscars. They don't have one this year. They're coming down the line. They can't default. Who knows? Maybe in 2027 there'll be some sort of action franchise where they'll be like, "Well, you've had other ones. John Wick 5. Here you go."
now over in the animated feature category, we got another blowout. K-pop Demon Hunters has 23 critic wins, while Zootopia 2 has 4 and Arco and Little Amelie both have 2. So K-pop, there you go, take your crown. Is it decided for the Oscar yet? Likely, but it's something still could happen. But Critics' Choice is hands down K-pop Demon Hunters, the same way it was hands down Wild Robot last year.
Yeah, at this point in the race, the last few years, I would say our animated feature winner was pretty locked in stone, and the winner ended up being something that we weren't expecting at the end of the day. Did that change at Critics' Choice? No, but it did change at the Golden Globes. It changed at the BAFTAs. So I think that K-pop, regardless if you do believe it's going to win or not, it's got this one. And then the real question happens at Golden Globes. Does one of the international movies overtake it? Then at BAFTAs, it's not there. Is it the same international movie that wins the Globe? Is it Zootopia? Or is it the other international movie? And then we could have a race where we have a few different winners going into Oscar night. But at this moment, K-pop is what you should have, regardless of your thoughts anywhere else.
So for Best Comedy, we don't have data from the regional critics. It seems like most people are leaning towards The Naked Gun as the winner. I'm personally going to go Splitsville here, though. But this is a category where I don't really know what direction we're going to go in. Dylan, where are you?
Well, that's the fun thing is the Critics' Choice don't know which direction they want to go with this category. Because last year, 2024, they said, "Hey, we're not going to do Best Picture nominees anymore. That's lame." We saw them do that in international feature this year as well, and they decided to tie Deadpool and Wolverine in a real pain. They couldn't even pick a winner themselves. The year before, they went with a Best Picture winner. The year before, I think Glass Onion was in Best Picture, so they did that. 2021 Best Picture. 2020 is the last time that they had an actual winner that wasn't in Best Picture, and they went with Palm Springs. And going back in in 2019, 2018, 2017. Dolomite, Crazy Rich Asians, The Big Sick. So it seems like they are typically going with the movie they find to be the funniest. And I think that you can make a great argument that it is The Naked Gun. But the thing I see between all those movies is they're funny and they're very critically well perceived. And I would agree. I think Splitsville is the movie to beat at this moment. We have no real data to go off of. Just looking at their stuff last year, Real Pain kind of fits that same category. I know some people out there are predicting Friendship. I personally can't bring myself to do that. I think Friendship's
No,
really bad.
no, Friendship is not winning. And I like Friendship. The Naked Gun is surprisingly critically well received and widely regarded as one of the funniest movies of the year. Splitsville, very critically well received, went to Cannes, is from Neon, has that sort of clout, and it's also funny as hell. If I were giving an award just for the funniest movie of the year, it is a near tie between Naked Gun and Splitsville, both of which had me like almost unable to breathe because I couldn't stop laughing. And the last category to talk about here, Best Foreign Language Film, like you mentioned, Dylan, Sentimental Value is in Best Picture. It cannot be here. They do not allow Best Picture films in here. And so, if Sentimental Value here, this would be a toss-up because currently, in terms of critic wins, It Was Just an Accident has 13 wins, Sentimental Value has 9, while No Other Choice has 6, Secret Agent has 3, Left-Handed Girl and Surratt have 1. But without sentimental value here, it is a blowout between It Was Just an Accident and No Other Choice. It's clear It Was Just an Accident wins here, but just because it wins here does not mean that sentimental value is not eventually winning the Oscar, which I still believe it is. I know we disagree on that, Dylan. I'm not gonna break.
The Oscar is still a debate to head. I'm not as head over heels for It Was Just an Accident going on to win everything as I was before, but I still currently have it as my front runner. The real question I have for CCA is with the exclusion of sentimental value, It Was Just an Accident obviously has all those critics groups wins, but looking at other CCA nominations, Miss Original Screenplay and Miss Director, it has nothing else. Secret Agent, it's in lead actor. No other choice. It's an adapted screenplay. Surratt is in, what was it, in sound? So they all have another additional nomination, and It Was Just an Accident doesn't. The real question is, does that matter? Will they just go with what all the critics groups are doing so far, or will they go with, hey, you're in another category. Let me go with this movie because maybe I've move this up my priority list to watch. This is a wild shout. I'm not predicting it to win because I don't think it happened at CCA. I think it happened at the Golden Globes that year. All Quiet on the Western Front didn't win the Golden Globe. They went with the random Argentina 1975. Maybe we could see something like that this year because we had the four neons. Maybe they'll go with something crazy instead. The question is no one's watching Bellin, and Left-Handed Girl isn't doing as much as what we thought it would do in the lead up of Sean Baker being attached. So I am just with It Was Just an Accident. I think that you can go against it. It's not crazy. It's not dumb. It makes the most sense. Taking out the fact that sentimental value isn't already here, it's winning by that much with critics groups mentions, and it's a film that has the buzz for the Academy Awards, regardless of if it got other nominations here. But if you have no other choice because if it was an adapted screenplay, I can't be too mad.
Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video.
Plugging once again, we just came up with our top 10 movies of 2025. Made this far in the video, you probably already subscribe or watch us, but again, per usual, a subscription, I like it, helps the channel continue to grow. And if you want to yap with us, the Discord link is down in the description down below. Talk with us and talk with hundreds of other awards lovers down there. It's active each and every day. And come back later this week. We're going to be reacting to these Critics' Choice nominations probably on Sunday night. Fun stuff. Award season's about to kick into full gear now that we're officially in 2026.
And as always, thank you so much for watching. My name's Matt.
My name's Dill, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.